This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth, coming at you here today with a world exclusive from James O'Keefe. Prince Andrew was effing underage girls. Tape of royal family advisor exposes Prince Andrew's sexual relations with minors and deep state ties to Jeffrey Epstein. This is the expose that has been released. This is a man who is very, very close to Prince Andrew, who did not know he was being recorded in this undercover investigation, and he was caught on video saying that the prince lied to him about Epstein and lied to him about sleeping with underage girls. Now, obviously, this isn't, huge new news. I reported way back in November of 2019 about these breaking Epstein updates in regards to the prince, Prince Andrew, the president, and Jeffrey's brother. And then, of course, I tried to tell everyone, wake up. Donald Trump is not going to release the Epstein list if he is selected as president. And as we know, that ended up happening. He was selected. And sure enough, I also was pointing out this third batch of Epstein documents that was released just continues to distract from the FBI's confiscated tapes. That's where the real treasure trove of evidence is. But this Epstein release was just a huge nothing burger, exactly as I predicted. The MAGA fools should be ashamed. Of course, I'll put links to all of this in the description below. And then recently now, Virginia Giuffre, Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew's accuser, has died by suicide. Well, that's probably why James O'Keefe decided to put out this video leading up to this major expose announcing that he is not suicidal. And but it's a little odd because there was really not a whole lot of new groundbreaking information that came out of this. Now, when we're talking about the royal family's ties to this pedophile network, we can't not talk about this bombshell report I put out as well. Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and the pedophile network that controls him, exposed, where I show you all the ties that the newest Canadian Prime Minister has to this royal pedophile ring and Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. He's obviously compromised. He's been photoed many times, pictured like here with Ghislaine Maxwell, and his own daughter went to the infamous Tavistock gender clinic and now identifies as they, them. So this man is deeply involved in all of this. By the way, guys, in case you didn't know, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services just recently put out this comprehensive review of medical interventions for children and adolescents with gender dysphoria. And here, according to the National Post, some of their findings in this is that there's exceptionally weak evidence that has been used to support puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries for youth who identify as transgender, exposing how ideology dominates over science in the field of gender medicine. Its conclusion is damning, that the medical establishment has failed vulnerable young children. And that's the truth. We're going to talk about that, guys, and much, much more in this video. But really quickly, just before we do, I want to remind you guys that the 2025 Bilderberg conference is coming up. It's going to be in Stockholm, Sweden, just next month, and I plan to be there to expose the Bilderberg group. So far, 29 people have contributed to my efforts to do this. Thank you so much to everybody who has. I'm hoping we can get this number up to maybe 35 today. I'm hoping to raise around $4,000. That's usually how much it costs me to cover Bilderberg. I'm a little over halfway. So hopefully, if you have yet to contribute to my cause to expose Bilderberg, you can check that top link in the description below to where you can find me at this Go Get Funding campaign. Once again, thank you so much to everybody who has contributed so far. All right, guys, this is back from November of 2019, talking about the prince sleeping with, kids. It's pretty epic that we're here at a point in time where a royal prince can be almost like put on trial here on television, being questioned about accusations of sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, sex with young children, sexual offenses. Okay, so this was a pretty groundbreaking moment when he was questioned about, his involvement with having sex with young children on a TV interview like this. That was huge. And as O'Keefe Media says, after that Prince Andrew 2019 BBC interview, where he denied knowing Virginia Giuffre and famously claimed that he was physically incapable of sweating, Bryan, the man in question, who was secretly filmed, says that he was quietly brought into the Royal Lodge, Andrew's private residence, to provide crisis management advice. In a previous interview with the New York Post, Bryan revealed that they, the British royal family, brought me in to help him, Andrew. Bryan told the publication that Andrew was so distressed he wasn't able to focus for more than 40 minutes. And according to a previous report by the Daily Mail, Bryan also admitted to crafting a 5-page PR strategy titled The House of Croy, advising Andrew to publicly express sympathy for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein while maintaining his own innocence. At the time, Bryan publicly supported the prince, stating that I believe Prince is innocent. I did a big thing in the Daily Mail saying I believed Andrew, Bryan recounted to an undercover OMG journalist, adding, and then I found out he was lying. I was so pissed. When asked what Andrew had lied about, Bryan didn't mince words. That he was effing underage girls, and that's not cool. Yeah, you don't say. That's pretty uncool indeed. And just the fact that O'Keefe managed to capture this on video is a pretty big deal. Now, like I said, this is, stuff we've essentially already known. But getting it on the record from somebody who directly knows the prince, again, is an excellent thing to do as we continue to build the case against Jeffrey Epstein, because it's certainly not coming from, the CIA or the FBI. Now, James O'Keefe's newest release, his follow-up to this, is, of course, in regards to Pam Bondi, who was covertly recorded on April 28th, saying that they have, tens of thousands of videos of little kids, and then she came out later and publicly, told everybody that they do have this stuff. And this puts me back to this, a video from January, this third batch that they released, which was just a huge distraction from the FBI's confiscated tapes. Again, that's where the real treasure trove of evidence lies. It's the tapes that were confiscated from the FBI. So do you think they're ever going to release those? Heck no, folks. Why? Because the whole thing is a huge blackmailing ring operation. This is the gold that they have over people like the royal family, so they can use it to manipulate them moving forward. So we're never going to see any kind of a release. But again, it's a good thing that these things are starting to move in the right direction. Just like this comprehensive review of the medical interventions for children and adolescents with gender dysphoria. This review was commissioned by an executive order from President Trump, whose directive was laced with politically charged and inflammatory language. In sharp contrast, the report itself is measured and grounded in evidence. Its recommendations echo the cautious evidence-based approach to youth gender care, now taking hold across much of Europe, contradicting the ideological positions of all major medical associations in the United States and Canada. So I will put links to this groundbreaking review that essentially shows just how bad things have gotten when it comes to putting ideology over science in dealing with so-called gender dysphoria. Very, very important stuff to understand when we're dealing with all of this Jeffrey Epstein stuff involving, royalty and, young kids. There was a heckler who confronted Mark Carney about his ties with Epstein. And, there's a time and a place for everything. But this moment...
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein, Mark Carney?
Like I said, there's a time and place for everything. This is useful in some instances, but mostly I think it would be far preferable to pull off some sort of similar operation as what James O'Keefe managed to do by having someone close to or Carney himself openly admitting this on video. That's what we need to work on in terms of what's happening here in Canada with this connection of the Prime Minister to this pedophile network, guys. So if you want to help me do that, I'm going to be going, once again, to the Bilderberg conference in Stockholm, Sweden in 2025. You know, at last year's meeting in Madrid, Spain, I correctly predicted that Mark Carney was eyeing the position of Prime Minister and that he would be the next PM if Bilderberg would allow it. And now Mark Carney is officially Canada's newest Prime Minister. So who's going to be there in Stockholm, Sweden in 2025? I intend to find out. Once again, thank you so much to the 29 people so far who've contributed: Ian, CH, Costello, Harvey, Gary, Ronald, Jonah, Brian, Thomas, Tom, Don, Andrew, so many people, 29 so far. Again, let's see if we can get this number up to 35 today. That would be awesome, folks. If you have yet to contribute, please check that top link in the description below. And that's all for today, guys. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Once again, if you do appreciate my efforts to do so, please click that thumbs up button, share this video, and stay tuned, guys. We're going to have more video reports coming soon, God willing. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.